There's only two of us on right now.
That's you and I. I don't have my phone. Because you have to when I know in the group chat, you're back on.
I already sent one.
Google does that from time to time.
Huh?
I say Google does that from time to time. But Firefox is just bad.
Only three of us on now.
I'll give it a few more moments.
I don't know, it just kicked us out for no reason.
We still got 50 minutes. At least an hour till Sunday. So
Mm-hmm. I don't know what time that is.
I'll do an hour with the stuff.
We do?
I said I'll do it now.
Oh, it is an hour. We have. And we're just waiting for a few minutes to get for everyone else to get logged back on. Watch out now, I'm getting to know you. Let's wait for everybody else to get back on so when they can hear your question and get the answer as well. I don't know how many people was on in the first place. I guess I should have looked. Should have put some more ice on my cup. It's warm. You put more ice in there? Okay, Scotticia, you can ask your question. She wanted to ask a question. Just put your question on the chat, and after the video, we'll answer it. Yeah.
All All right, so let's get back to it. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Vitamin B3 or niacin. So vitamin B3 or niacin, what niacin does is that the body uses niacin to convert the food into energy and to store it. Niacin also is good for the functioning of nerves, and it promotes the health of skin and tissues and the digestive system. So you can find niacin in milk and eggs and tuna, meats and fish and peanuts. And like I said, with all the ones that are categorized under vitamin B, those vitamins are typically found in meats or cheese, not too much in vegetables, but there are small amounts in vegetables. So let's see about vitamin B3 or niacin.
Let's talk about niacin, vitamin B3, and schizophrenia. Now, there's some fascinating information on this topic. Schizophrenia is a combination of having hallucinations, delusions, paranoia, mixed with feeling disconnected, loss of interest in life, and feeling emotionless, which basically is your apathetic. Now, the medical theory of what causes schizophrenia is you have dopamine excess. And so you're given certain drugs to help regulate that. The problem with those drugs is it has certain side effects that cause metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance, which has been shown to worsen these symptoms because of what it does to the brain. So as a side note, there's some great data. I'll put some links down below of how ketones, going on a ketogenic diet, can help reduce those symptoms, but that's not part of this video, it's a side note. However, there was a doctor named Dr. Abraham Hoffer some years ago who had a different theory, and that theory was called the adrenochrome theory. Adrenochrome is basically the byproduct of adrenaline. And in his research, he found that the chemical structure of adrenaline was very similar to LSD. And so it had certain types of effects on the brain if it was in higher amounts. So his whole theory was that schizophrenia comes from excessive amounts of adrenochrome in the brain, which is toxic. Now, normally you're supposed to have an enzyme that clears that chemical out. And people with schizophrenia had a defect with this enzyme. So he found that by taking large doses of B3, about 3,000 to 18,000 micrograms per day, and I'm talking about straight niacin, I'm not talking about the time-release niacin, the one that doesn't give you the flush. There's more side effects with that one rather than just take straight B3 niacin. But anyway, he found that by taking large doses of niacin, you can prevent the conversion of the precursor for adrenaline called noradrenaline, thereby making less adrenaline. So it will help clear out adrenaline. It helps you produce less adrenaline, which can be toxic to the brain, especially if you have a defect to this enzyme. But also, B3 will reduce liver toxicity. It will help reduce oxidative stress in your mitochondria, as well as help your DNA repair. There were several double-blinded studies that were done. One of the studies showed a 79.5% improvement in symptoms. Now, he died some years ago, but recently there were some other additional studies that were done to show improvements with schizophrenia using high doses of not just B3, but other B vitamins. Well, I'll put that research down below. Before you go, if you have a question about a product, or you're new to keto and you want to know how to begin keto, or you're on keto and you need a debug because it's not going as smooth, I have a keto consultant standing by to help you. This is just for the people in the US. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to answer everyone's call. But I put the number down below so you can call and get some help.
Great. Keto health.
So Cartesial question is, so if I would like to buy B supplement, it's best to buy them separately and not with the different B vitamins mixed together.
It's better to buy them separately, and it may, I mean, I know it may cost, but if you buy something that's B1, B3, B2, you're not really getting the effects of B1, B2, or B3. So it's best to buy your B vitamins separate. You can still get it in the food. If you can still get it in the food, but if you want to go the vitamin route, if it says supplements, stay away from it. There has to be 100% vitamin B. If it says vitamin B1 supplement, then there's something mixed inside with that. Some kind of chemicals that are mixed inside with. Right?
But I know now B complex, is that?
Yeah, B complex. If it's B complex, if it's B1 complex, that's fine.
It's one that says B complex, and then it says B1, B2,
yeah,
B3.
that's a multiple.
So no, you want the one that say B1, B2, B3.
Right.
I'm still looking for B5.
Right. Well, we got a little information on B5 that I can find. All right, niacin. Milk, eggs, rice, peanuts, enriched cereal. A deficiency in vitamin 3 is called pellagra. And symptoms include mental problems, dementia, dermatitis, digestive problems. If you have those problems, chances are you are low in niacin. He mentioned Niacin Flush in the previous video. No one had a question on Niacin Flush is, so I'm assuming everybody knows what Niacin Flush is. Because I didn't know what Niacin Flush is. So I had to find out something on Niacin Flush. So let's see about Niacin Flush. Because he mentioned it, but I didn't know what it was.
We had a recent question from someone that wanted to know, is the niacin flush harmful or dangerous? Well, the answer is no, it is not harmful or dangerous. What's happening, you're getting this massive relaxation of the muscles inside your blood vessels. It's called vasodilation. And that's occurring because niacin increases something called prostaglandins. Now, what is a prostaglandin? It's a lipid or fat compound that has a hormone effect. And prostaglandins increase vasodilation. They help reduce blood pressure. It helps blood clotting. It's also involved in headaches and fever. This is why when you take an aspirin, which blocks prostaglandins, it can reduce fever. So that's really what's happening when you're getting this flushing red response. Some people don't like it. They think it's going to damage something. Some people like it. I actually like it myself. I like that flushing response, but it's not dangerous at all. The thing you need to know about niacin is that therapeutically it's been used over 50 years, and it is the most effective natural agent for increasing your HDL, the good cholesterol, by 20 to 40%. It also can decrease the LDL, specifically the small, dense type, the damaging LDL, and it can have the potential to decrease your triglycerides. Now, of course, if you do the ketogenic diet and you do intermittent fasting, that would help your cholesterol greatly. But if you're concerned about cholesterol, you should be on niacin for sure. But you would have to take higher amounts of it, 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day. Now, if you take the type of niacin that is non-flushing, it doesn't have those cholesterol-lowering benefits. Now, the other thing that niacin has been proven beneficial for is by reducing schizophrenia. There's some great data on this. I'm going to put some links down below. But niacin has many other benefits, but these are two big benefits. If you haven't seen my other videos on niacin, I'm going to put them up right here. Check them out.
that's interesting because he said taking niacin, you can get a red flushing glow.
Right.
And that's what we with Imuna when we first started when they was teaching this morning. We had to close the curtains because she was glowing like red, and we was like, "Why is she doing that?" But she took her vitamins last night, so she did have a kind of red glow to her. That's interesting.
Right, and people think that that's something wrong, when in fact it's nothing wrong. That means that
It says circulation of blood.
right.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
So as a supplement, large or small doses, niacin produces a flushing. That means increased redness in your face, or you feel a warming in the skin. You may feel itching or tingling in the face or upper chest. Okay. Avoid drinking hot beverages and just start taking niacin. Okay. That's a flushing that your body is doing to get rid of. You're not getting rid of niacin, like you said. You're getting rid of bad stuff. Right. Now, I didn't have information on B5. I just found this on vitamin B5.
I just heard of B5 yesterday.
Let's talk about vitamin B5, pantothenic acid, your adrenals, and the quality of your sleep. The first thing you need to know is that vitamin B5 is essential for the production or synthesis of acetylcholine, which is good for your focus and memory. It's also essential for making the cortisol hormone. This is the stress hormone. It's also essential for making epinephrine, that's adrenaline, another adrenal hormone, serotonin, and melatonin. So as you can see, it's very important in creating the stress hormones, as well as the hormones involving sleep, as well as the hormones involving your mood. B5 can directly support the cell that controls the circadian rhythm. Okay, that's the central clock in your brain that helps you keep your circadian waves in check. And this clock is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So B5 is necessary to support that clock. And by the way, you not only have this central clock in your brain, you have other clocks in virtually every single cell in your body. They're called peripheral clocks, and they're all linked up with your major clock in your brain. And so this way, when you're asleep, you have the rest of the body also asleep, so you're not having things like restless leg syndrome as you're trying to sleep or other conditions. And so if you're low or deficient in vitamin B5, these are the symptoms that you can experience. Number one, irritability. Number two, fatigue, apathy, numbness in the hands and feet, muscle cramps, especially at night, restlessness, okay, that's going to affect your sleep, as well as sleep disturbances in general. And so when you take vitamin B5, it actually helps to regulate cortisol. Let's take a look at how cortisol is produced. You have the hypothalamus, okay, in your brain, that's like the master gland, and then you have the middle man, which is the pituitary. Okay, a lot of times people call the pituitary the master gland, but really it's the middle man, the via between the master gland and the actual gland that it's going to. And so we have the hypothalamus, pituitary, and the adrenals. Okay, so we have various hormone communications throughout this pathway. And so the whole goal is that the environment, like stress, for example, activates certain hormones in your brain through your receptors that signal down to the pituitary and the adrenal to release its hormones to adapt the body to stress. Now, if you're trying to sleep at night and you're trying to adapt the body to stress, you're not going to sleep. And so when cortisol is produced, it sends also a signal back up to the pituitary and the hypothalamus, letting those two glands know that that function was carried out. And so this negative feedback turns off the pituitary and the hypothalamus, so that hormone doesn't have to keep being generated. Okay. Now, the important thing to note is that vitamin B5 makes the hormone from the pituitary, called ACTH, more sensitive. Now, what does that mean, more sensitive? What that means, it just makes that hormone work better and more complete. So when the cortisol is produced and it comes back around to turn off this pituitary, it's able to turn it off. And so vitamin B5 helps this communication pathway to help regulate cortisol. And also B5 is needed to make cortisol, which then allows cortisol to come around and turn off the switch as well. So when you think about B5, think about a vitamin that helps to regulate the amount of cortisol you need. So it's not too high and not too low. When you're trying to sleep on top of high cortisol, you're not going to be able to sleep, okay? Especially the second half of the sleep where you have the REM, which is the superficial type sleep. You're just not going to get a quality of sleep. You're going to get up usually around 2, 2:30, 3 o'clock. And so you can take pantothenic acid as a supplement, but there's another version of pantothenic acid that might be more powerful. And this is called pantotene, which is kind of like the active form of B5. So pantothenic acid has to convert into this active form called pantotene. And so some people have a problem with vitamin B5 because they can't make this conversion. And for those people, definitely need the pantotene version of this vitamin. And so if you have adrenal problems or sleep problems, you may want to add between 500 and 1,000 milligrams of vitamin B5 to help you with lowering your cortisol so you can get a better sleep. Now, if you haven't seen my recent video on sleep, I want you to check that out too, because there are several other factors that you want to combine in improving the quality of your sleep. Hey, before you go, if you're benefiting from any of my content, I would love to hear about your success story. Please share it.
Okay, vitamin B5 or pantotene.
So I'm guessing that's not a B4.
No. B6 is used for, or B6, your body. It's a lot. It's kind of like B1. There's like 100 different reactions that the body has when it's dealing with B6. Brain function, your neurotransmitters are off, your mood is bad. The vitamin can fight against cancer, memory loss, premenstrual syndrome. Sources in vitamin B6, it's beef, liver, fish, leafy green vegetables, or starchy vegetables, potatoes, fruits, not citrus. So your apple or your melons, pears are technically, no, pears are not citrus.
Mm-hmm.
Blueberries are not citrus. Citrus is your limes, oranges, your lemons, tangerines, grapefruits. Those are the citrus. What about vitamin B deficiency? If you are listening to the symptoms, you'll understand what you need. So maybe you don't need vitamin B1. Maybe you don't need riboflavin, vitamin B2. Maybe you're deficient in your sleep, which is vitamin B3, niacin. You find out what your symptoms are, what you're deficient in, and therefore you don't have to go and buy vitamin B1, 2, 3, 6, vitamin D, vitamin B12. You don't have to do all of that. Find out what you're deficient in, and you take that vitamin to assist with that.
But if you're a little bit up there in age, you may want to get you some. No.
So today we're going to talk about vitamin B6, okay? Vitamin B6 is a cofactor. It's a helper nutrient in so many different chemistries of the body. I'm just going to talk about the main ones right here. There are 7 different forms of vitamin B6. The active form of vitamin B6 is called pyridoxal 5-phosphate. You usually see it on a vitamin label as P5P. Now, what does B6 actually do? Well, it's involved in making neurotransmitters like GABA, dopamine, adrenaline. So it affects your mood. So if you're deficient, you're going to have anxiety, depression, and you might be moody. You might have this thing called PMS. I mean, not you, but you probably know people who do. It can affect your focus, your attention as an ADD. In order to make B6 work, you also need vitamin B2 and zinc, okay, which is a trace mineral. Several things that cause a deficiency of B6 would be diabetes or blood sugar problems in general, like let's say you're a pre-diabetic, or you have insulin resistance, which the majority of the population has. Liver damage or a fatty liver could affect the absorption. If you have a history of any colon problems, like some type of inflammatory conditions that you end up having scar tissue in your gut, or let's say you have IBS or Crohn's, that could affect your absorption. If you have gastric bypass surgery, that could affect your absorption. Or you're taking birth control pills, or you're taking steroids, like in cortisone shots, things like that, that can affect the absorption. But usually you're not going to be deficient from the foods in your diet because it's in so many different foods. It's in chickpeas, pork, liver, tuna, salmon, other fish, eggs, beef, and it's in a lot of vegetables. So chances are your deficiency could be coming from these other things right here. Now, if you're deficient, the classical symptom would be dermatitis. Other symptoms, anxiety, depression, like I said, red irritated eyes, neuropathy, which is a destruction of the myelin sheath, which B6 is involved in. You also have vitamin B12 and B1 as well. Impaired glucose tolerance, so you're going to have blood sugar issues if you're deficient in B6. B6 deficiency is also involved in edema and swelling, especially when you're pregnant, as well as carpal tunnel syndrome. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.
All right, so
So
vitamin
you know my viewpoint on this topic. I want to know your viewpoint. What do you think about this video? Go ahead and comment down.
Here's a vitamin B6. It's in fortified cereals. You can also have muscle weakness. And he did mention irritability, depression, nervousness, or short-term memory. Your vitamin B6, you need to supplement that. You can supplement it with sunflower seeds, garlic, beans, salmon, hazelnuts, sesame seeds, bell pepper, or wheat. Okay, vitamin B6 or pyroxidine, which is the name of it, would be great for pregnant women because it reduces toxicosis. It stops skin disorders, and it reduces night muscle spasms. You get night cramps. They're not good. You get night cramps. It reduces that. Okay? All right. Vitamin B12. Vitamin B12, or what it should be called, cobalamin, COBALAMIN. That's vitamin B12. It's a vitamin that breaks down food for energy also. But also, vitamin B12 uses the red blood cells and your DNA. It helps form red blood cells. It helps form your DNA. It has a neurological function. It helps your neurological functions. It also helps your genetic material in your body. The proteins and the hormones and the fat are regulated by vitamin B12 or cobalamin, which is the scientific name for vitamin B12. Okay? So let's see about deficiencies in vitamin B12. And like I said, with these deficiencies, if you find out that you have these symptoms, you can just take the vitamin that is associated with the symptom. Just like when you are going through self-deliverance, you're calling out what the demon is. You're not calling it something else.
Hey guys, Dr. Berg here. In this video, I want to share with you the most common cause of B12 deficiency. So let's just talk about what B12 is. It's an essential B vitamin that you must get from your diet. And what it does is it makes these little things called nucleic acids, which are the foundational genetic material for your cells. So basically, it makes the foundation of red blood cells, white blood cells, and myelin. What is myelin? Myelin is the outer covering of your nervous system. It allows the conductivity of nerve impulses to travel. When you lose myelin, you have all sorts of electrical problems, pain problems,
That's
nerve
the covering
problems,
of the nerve.
MS, all sorts of things. So that's what happens when you're deficient in that. But you can also become fatigued, pale, memory problems, dementia, Alzheimer's, neurological issues like peripheral neuropathy, even with, I guess, foot pain or hand pain, anemia. And you're completely, there's something called pernicious anemia. I'm not going to get into that, what it is, but it comes from B12 deficiency. But most B12 deficiency does not come from necessarily the diet. It comes from the stomach not being acid enough, low stomach acid, okay? Because it takes a very strong acidic stomach to absorb B12 into the body. And a lot of people have a problem with the pH in their stomach. Normally, a pH in the stomach should be between 1 and 3, which is really, really acidic. The way you know you have low stomach acid is you have acid reflux, GERD, gas, bloating, because the stomach is needed to be able to close the valve, digest protein, absorb minerals like calcium, iron, all these different minerals. 1/3 of everyone over the age of 65 has a B12 deficiency, but they all also have a low stomach acid problem. So it's a really simple solution to fix a big problem. So what do we recommend? Apple cider vinegar. Okay?
Oh,
Apple cider vinegar
yeah.
pills, or just go ahead and start drinking with your meals with some water, a little straw, and that will create some really cool changes for a lot of people just by adding that one little thing in there. And you don't even need to take more B12. You can just go ahead and acidify the stomach, and a lot of things clear up when you start to absorb B12. So it's a real simple solution. Now, to build the stomach acid, you also need certain healthy salt, like a sea salt, because a lot of times when you're low on sea salt, the acid goes down. Also, you need potassium, comes from the vegetables. So you need potassium to build the acid. Also, iodine. So you do need these minerals as well. So if you're taking antacids, or you're just eating poorly, or you're not taking enough minerals and eating healthy, you will lose the stomach acid, and then you start having a problem with this whole chain reaction. Okay? So go ahead and plug this in as far as to fix this and see how much better you feel. Write your comments below, and I will see you in the next video.
Apple cider vinegar. And yeah, he says sip it because I don't think you're supposed to gulp it. It's not good for you.
But it's just not any apple cider vinegar. You do not want to use the white vinegar.
Right.
You want apple cider vinegar. You want the raw. It said the mother, yeah, and you want the raw. Yeah, I think it's like 2 teaspoons and a glass
In
of
an 8
water.
ounce glass of water.
And you can, and it'll really help at night too with
Acid reflux.
Acid reflux. It'll help with leaky gut syndrome, all that.
Right. Okay, so top foods with high in vitamin B12: turkey, salmon, yogurt, cottage cheese, Swiss cheese, chicken, sardines, red meat, and eggs. Vitamin B deficiency leads to, like he said, fatigue, weakness, constipation, depression, memory problems, confusion, seriously with dementia, and numbness and tingling in your hands and feet. Okay.
You go to the doctor. What medicine would they give you for all that?
Oh,
You have
give you
a ton of
medicine.
yeah.
When all you need is vitamin B12. All right, vitamin B12, like you said, there's gastro disorders, nutrient absorption. You're not able to absorb nutrients. Vegetarians are, I'm sorry, vegetarians, but you're deficient in a lot of the vitamin Bs. Pregnant women, you are deficient in a lot of the vitamin Bs. You have to replenish all of the vitamin Bs if you are pregnant. Infants suffer from vitamin B12 deficiency. So you have to do something with the infants in order to get that into their system also. Don't care if they're telling you, oh, well, that's a baby, just don't do it. No, vitamin Bs can also happen in deficiency with infants.
Well, remember I told you about the story, the guy's son, he was not even 2. And he just fell out. He fell into a coma or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know what was wrong with him. And he was a doctor himself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made it so bad. So his son was in a coma for a whole week, and they didn't know what was wrong with him or how to treat him. And it finally came back. They ran all these tests that he was deficiency in vitamin D.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about vitamin D later.
I'm saying all he needed was vitamin D, and they gave it to him, and he came out the coma, and he was fine. Like the guy was saying, you're better. Like within hours, you start feeling a difference as your body absorbs it from the first time you take it.
Right. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is also called ascorbic acid.
Mm-hmm. I knew that one.
Okay. And it's an antioxidant vitamin, which your body needs to maintain healthy skin, maintain healthy bones. You need it for good muscles. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is in lemons, papaya, strawberries, orange juice, bell peppers, kiwi, cantaloupe, many types of fruits and vegetables. So vitamin C is not like the B vitamins. The B vitamins are mostly in live animals. The C vitamin is mostly in fruits and vegetables.
Let's talk about the importance of vitamin C and something called a subclinical vitamin C deficiency. Now, you may have heard the term scurvy before, which is a very serious vitamin C deficiency. Another term for that is called classical vitamin C deficiency. But subclinical is that you have some vitamin C, but you don't have the full amount. Now, what does vitamin C do? Well, mainly it works as an antioxidant, okay, protecting against free radical damage. It has a real big important purpose in collagen growth and repair. I'm talking about connective tissue, ligaments, tendons, fascia, cartilage, all the things related to your joint. It's also necessary to make noradrenaline. And when you're low in noradrenaline, you're just not awake. You're tired all the time. It's also necessary in the function of carnitine, which has to do with delivering fat to the mitochondria, the furnace, to burn fat. So fat oxidation. So if you're low in vitamin C, you're not going to get the full fat oxidation to make energy. Also, your white blood cells, part of the immune system, are saturated with vitamin C. So if you don't have enough vitamin C, your immune system cannot work. When you have a very severe deficiency, as in scurvy, you have wounds that won't heal. You get gingivitis, inflammation of the gums. You'll get peripolicular hemorrhage. Now, what is that? That is the little red dots on the follicles on your skin. It could be in your butt. It could be certain places in your body. It's a vitamin C deficiency. Fatigue, red, purple blotches, similar to spider veins, but sometimes you see them on the lower leg. You'll see them very commonly with diabetics. And there's a lot of other symptoms as well. Now, how do you get vitamin C? These are the foods that have a lot of vitamin C. Papaya, which I don't recommend. Kiwi, which I don't recommend. Bell pepper, which I do recommend. Leafy greens. A lot of other vegetables are loaded with vitamin C. Berries, cruciferous vegetables. And in addition to this, a lot of times people take a supplement. Just make sure that your supplement is not synthetic. Make sure it's food-based. This is a really good source of vitamin C. Acerola cherry, which is very different than the regular cherries that you would eat. but this is loaded with vitamin C. So in addition to getting your vitamin C from food, there's things that will block or inhibit vitamin C absorption. Smoking will inhibit vitamin C in your body. If you're pregnant, the need for vitamin C goes way up. As you get older and you age, your vitamin C goes down, so you need more vitamin C for repair. Why? Because it's an antioxidant. Also, overtraining with exercise can inhibit your vitamin C. And this is interesting too. When you eat sugar, you compete with vitamin C. So you will not be able to absorb vitamin C if you're consuming sugar. And if you're diabetic and you have high levels of sugar, that's going to block your ability to absorb vitamin C. All right, guys, there's more to know about vitamin C. Check out these videos on this page. I'll see you next time.
Most people get enough vitamin C through their diets because they're in the more popular foods that we eat. Contrary to popular belief, vitamin C does not prevent colds. It doesn't prevent colds.
Yeah, he didn't say that.
What it does is that it shortens the duration of the cold that you're going through. But vitamin D, like we have been drilled that vitamin D prevents colds. It does not prevent cold. It just makes the time that you are sick short.
Do you have anything on zinc?
Yeah, we got zinc. That's the last one. All right, vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, so you should not eat vitamin C-rich foods and take supplements at the same time. You can get enough vitamin C from the foods that you eat. If you do have something, like he said, called with scurvy or gingivitis or bleeding gums, then yes, you should take vitamin C supplement with the food that you're eating because you're losing a lot of vitamin C in your body. So vitamin C would be good for gingivitis. We're not going to talk about zinc just yet. We're going to talk about zinc a little later. There are claims vitamin C in high doses effectively treat against coronavirus because vitamin C is an antioxidant and it protects the cells from damage. Coronavirus attacks the cells.
That's why we were told to take vitamin D and vitamin C.
Okay.
Yep.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 24, verse 14 says, I was exalted like a palm tree in Engadi, and as a rose plant in Jericho, as a fair olive tree in a pleasant field, and grew up as a plane tree by the water. Calcium is our next one.
All right now.
Calcium is a very critical mineral. Calcium makes up your teeth and your bones. But also, we know that calcium is for teeth and bones, but also it's for muscle contractions. Just something simple as raising your hand. You need calcium to do this. Calcium also makes your heart function. In order for your heart to beat properly, your body has to have enough calcium. Calcium good with milk, yogurt, cheese, broccoli, or leafy vegetables. So what if your calcium, leafy green vegetables.
Dark green.
What if your calcium deficient? And we got some interesting information on kale, that there's something actually better than kale. And we'll get that later when we talk about, I think it's iodine.
Which we need to get some more.
Calcium.
Hi guys, in this video we're talking about calcium deficiencies. Now, I put a link down below so you can see calcium excesses as well because so many people have too much calcium, it's locking up the soft tissues and creating all sorts of issues. So watch that one too. But if you're deficient in calcium, these are the symptoms. Number one, insomnia, specifically early morning insomnia. Let's say you get up an hour before the alarm clock, boom, you need some calcium. So calcium will allow you to go a little bit longer. And that's because calcium is needed to make tryptophan to make melatonin. So it's not just about calcium in the muscle itself relaxing, it's about your hormones, okay? Muscle cramps, okay, that's one common symptom. So I recommend calcium lactate or calcium citrate. It's very easy to find. Brittle nails, tooth decay, bone loss, and red-purple spots. They can be really small or they can be bigger. Why? Because calcium is involved in the clotting of blood, just like vitamin K is. Okay, then tetany, that's a little twitching right through here. But many times it's not the calcium, it's your too alkaline, and you're not able to transport the calcium, and it becomes unavailable to you. So you get these little twitches, different parts of your body called tetany. There's more symptoms, but these are the main ones. Pins and needles around the mouth and the lips, or on your hands and your feet, which could also be a diabetic symptom as well. So they can mimic each other. Okay, now what are the causes? Hypoparathyroidism. Now, not hypothyroidism, it's the parathyroid. There's four little glands behind the thyroid. They're really tiny, and they're like the size of a seed of rice, a grain of rice. And when it's low, it can actually affect the calcium. When it's high, it raises calcium and it'll steal it from the bone. Kidney damage can cause a calcium deficiency. Calcium channel blockers, that's what you would take if you have high blood pressure, because that blocks calcium. Antacids, which dry up all the acid in your stomach, giving you low stomach acid. You need a really acidic stomach to absorb minerals, specifically calcium. So that could be, why you're deficient. Vomiting or diarrhea because you're losing fluid. Excessive magnesium. So let's say you're taking the remedy called Calm, which is magnesium, and you're taking it, but you're not adding the calcium in there. That can create an imbalance because calcium and magnesium work together. Then we have low vitamin D, right? Let's say, for example, you don't, not in your diet, or you're not getting the sun, or your gallbladder is missing, or you don't have enough bile because your gallbladder is congested, you can't absorb the fat soluble vitamins. So that's another common reason. Low stomach acid and then alkalosis, which basically your pH of your blood is just overly too alkaline, and that can come from adrenal stress and high cortisol. Okay? The best foods for calcium would be grass-fed dairy, cheese. I do a lot of cheese. You get a lot of calcium from that. Greens, leafy greens, spinach, bok-choy, kale is loaded with calcium. Nuts, seeds, fish, sardines, and it's a lot of other foods as well. If you're going to take a supplement, I would go for the calcium lactate. You can't find that.
Calcium lactate.
Calcium citrate, but do not go for the calcium carbonate. That's like chewing on cement. Just chewing on this wall right here. It's just not going to be absorbed too well. It's like chewing on rock. All right? So, share your comments below. Thanks for watching. What am I doing?
Calcium. Calcium is also good in sardines and salmon. Wonderful source of calcium. Do calcium, and I believe I've seen this, calcium fortified orange juice.
Yes.
Orange juice is full of calcium. Drink that.
I haven't had sardines in a very. We used to buy sardines in a can. They would be in like hot sauce or mustard.
Yeah.
You eat it with crackers.
With crackers.
I'm gonna get some.
Right.
I haven't had
it has a real strong fish taste to it.
But it's good.
Yeah. Or smell. We haven't had smell. Yeah.
My grandmother used to cook you smelt.
Yeah, I haven't had smelt in a long time.
She would come over to the house personally, especially just to cook him smelt.
Yeah.
And there would be like, 30 or 40 of them? They're little. And he would just be eating.
They're good, though.
I said, my son-in-law, yeah. I got to go over there and cook for him.
Yeah, smelt and sardines. We haven't had that in a while.
Yeah, my grandmother did spoil him.
So calcium. Women that are premenopausal need calcium. Women that are vegans, or women that are veterinarians need, or women who don't have a regular period.
Wait, women that are veterinarians?
Vegetarians.
Oh, I was saying, what that have to do with anything?
Okay. If you exercise a lot, you must replenish your body with calcium. Okay? Another wonderful mineral, chromium. Chromium.
Oh yeah, I got some of that too.
Chromium is a trace mineral. That means that you only need very small amounts of this nutrient in your body. But chromium is good for regulating blood sugars.
Yep.
And chromium is in broccoli, it's in grape juice, English muffins, potatoes, and garlic. That's where chromium is in. What is so great about chromium? Let's see.
Chromium. She always thinking about food. Potatoes.
Chromium.
Hey guys, in this video, we're going to talk about this amazing trace mineral called chromium. First of all, a trace mineral is a mineral needed in very small amounts, usually below 100 milligrams. But the unique factor of this mineral is it enhances the function of insulin. So it allows insulin to work better. Now, what condition do you think that would be good for? You guessed it, insulin resistance. Because what happens when the cells start resisting insulin, is the feedback loops that go to the pancreas then tell the pancreas to make more insulin because it's not getting through. So people with insulin resistance have about 5 to 7 times more insulin than a normal person. So chromium allows this insulin to penetrate the cell better, improving insulin resistance. Now, there's two other elements that can do that. One is potassium and B1. So now we got chromium. That would be a really good combination to help someone with a blood sugar issue. It's actually called the glucose tolerance factor because it improves the tolerance of glucose. Some people have glucose sensitivity. Well, chromium helps that. Basically, chromium helps your blood sugars. Okay. Broccoli has the most chromium of any vegetable, so you should start consuming your broccoli. Brewer's yeast is another good one. Eggs, grass-fed beef, green beans, turkey is very high in chromium. There's a lot of other foods that have chromium as well, or you can get it as a supplement. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there, and definitely if you have a blood sugar issue, start taking chromium. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, thank you so much for.
Right, chromium, like I said, it's a trace mineral, so you don't need that much, less than 100 milligrams a day, but it does wonders for you. You may excrete more chromium in your urine if you're sick, stressed. If you're a pregnant woman, you will excrete more chromium, so you got to put it back in. Okay. Chromium, like he said, chromium, the most nutrients in chromium is broccoli. 11.2 milligrams are in broccoli itself. Then turkey, 10.4. Eating a diet high in simple sugars, the body breaks it down easily. Chromium, it helps also with weight loss. So now we're going to get to vitamin D. We got a lot of information on vitamin D. This first video that we're going to talk about with vitamin D, really pay attention to the last part, the third thing that this guy's going to mention. It's some good information, but pay attention to the third part. Okay? He says how to fix vitamin D deficiency.
Sun is the primary source of energy of all living beings. There is no replacement for sun, and surviving without the energy of sun is like breathing without air. And India is a blessed country as sun shines here all year long. Even then, it is unfortunate and shocking that 70 to 90% of Indians are vitamin D deficient. This is the reason problems like depression, back pain, low immunity, weak bones, and hair fall is on the rise. Many people in India have this misconception that because they are exposed to sunlight daily, they need not bother about vitamin D. That's not how it should be. There is a definite way to absorb vitamin D from the sun. Practicing it, you need not depend on vitamin D pills. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The healing sciences of India is one of the oldest science and medicines on this planet. By the end of this video, you will clearly know the three ways to harness the therapeutic energy of the sun the right way, which will not just fulfill your vitamin D deficiency, but will also sharpen your brain, improve your eyesight, heal your skin, cure you of diseases, and make you happy in general. Truly, these practices are life changing. So, without any further delay, let's get started. Hello friends, welcome to Festival. In the often confusing and overwhelming world of nutrition science, I would like to remind you of a simple fact that sunlight is our ultimate nutrient. All the energy that we take into our body is in some way derived from the sun. It is because of the miraculous healing power of the sun that it has always been revered as godly in India. Actually, many cultures have recognized the potential healing powers of the light and the sun. Sunlight, if taken the right way, has the power to heal the deadliest of diseases, let alone minor vitamin deficiencies. However, the present generation is ignorant of the sun and remains indoors most of the time. Artificial light has taken over, sunlight is being missed. And this is one of the major reasons why diseases are on the rise. Even though the solution has been so simple and right in front of us. But it's never too late, we can bring the ancient wisdom back. That is why I want to share with you three powerful practices which will integrate the sun's energy within you and will heal you from the inside and outside effectively. Number three, sunbathing. Sunbathing is exposing your body to the sun. Sunlight is pure, natural, and potentially the most effective detoxifier. Do you remember how our mothers and grandmothers would keep the blankets out in the sunlight in the beginning of the season so that all the germs get killed? Foods are kept in the sun to remove insects. Sun salutations are still being practiced in many parts of India for physical and mental well-being. Sunlight is the best natural source of vitamin D. When you get your vitamin D from the sunlight, your body takes what it needs and removes the extra amounts. However, it is extremely important to know the right way of sunbathing to get the maximum benefit. Being for too long in the sunlight at the wrong time can actually do more harm than good. The best time to take a sun bath is in the morning after sunrise and in the evening before sunset. If you have sensitive skin, drink a glass of water before sunbathing. It will prevent any kind of rashes and tanning. It is recommended to wear minimum clothes or white colored light cotton clothes to let your skin absorb the sunlight in a better way. Either lie down or sit somewhere in the sun and relax for a while. You can combine sunbathing with other activities like reading a book, body massage, or just observe the nature. For the fast absorption of vitamin D, it is important that you expose your navel and back for at least 5 minutes each. Yes, then stay for about 20 to 30 minutes. When you begin to sweat, it's a good indication that you have taken enough sunlight. Come back and see if you have an urge to urinate. You will notice that your urine turns yellow, expelling out the toxins. So rather than being a generation deficient in vitamin D due to the fear of the sun and depending on pills, it is time to rightly expose our body to the powerful and healing sun. Literally, whatever part of your body is troubling you, expose that to the sun, and in a few weeks, you will see that the problem is disappearing. It's like recharging. Number two, sun charged water. Another potential way of absorbing sunlight energy is by drinking sun charged water. Experimental evidence shows that light imparts energy to water, and that energy, in some instances, may provide energy to even sustain a life. Yes, the sun charged water is so full of energy that scientists have named it as living water. In ancient India, specific herb infused sun charged water in different colored glass bottles were used to treat patients suffering from deadly diseases. The best thing is that it is so simple and inexpensive to make sun charged water. Take a maximum of 3 liters of drinking water in clear glass jar bottle. Avoid using RO water as it is already demineralized. Place it outside in the sunlight sometime in the morning. Leave it there for about 5 to 8 hours. More time is not necessary and less time has less effect. Pick it up before sunset. Drink this water slowly, sip by sip, then or through the next 24 hours. Do not store in plastic and please do not refrigerate. One of the first benefits that you will observe after drinking sun-charged water is increased energy. Lethargy will go away, mind will be rejuvenated. Not just for drinking, you can also apply sun-charged water topically on any skin condition to support healing. It is also an excellent eye wash. You need not drink this water every day, even once a week is enough. Number one, Tratka with the sun. Tratka is an ancient Indian practice to use sun's divine energy to nourish the brain cells and increase memory and concentration power. In the West, it is now commonly known as sun gazing, sometimes also called sun eating. In Tratka, one needs to greet the sun as it rises. Contrary to the popular belief, millions of Indians have greeted sun in this way without going blind. Today, even modern science is in tune with it. You can even put a drop of ghee in each of your eyes before starting Pranayama.
Wait, what is
Ghee is
that?
cooling in nature and has some fats which are ideal for eye tissues, although it's optional. Gaze at the sun while the globe is still red or deep orange and still touching the horizon. Stare into the sun only if it does not hurt and keep the eyes as still as possible. Depending on where you are, the sun will move quite fast and you will have only 10 to 15 minutes to practice Pratka in the morning as well as evening. Although it is so effective that even 10 seconds of Pratka is good enough for a start. You can easily get prior information as to when the sun is rising and setting in your city and accordingly plan and prepare for Pratka. As a technique of yoga used to develop awareness, attention, and focus, it strengthens the eyes and stimulates the Agna Chakra or the third eye. If you are drowning in depression, I highly recommend you do it. So these are the three best practices to harness the divine, miraculous energy of the sun and integrate within your system. If not all, try to include at least one in your day-to-day lifestyle. Your body and mind will thank you for it. Friends, that's all for this video. I hope you found it to be helpful. If yes, then please show me your support by giving this video a big thumbs up. What next would you like to see on this channel? Comment below. You can now support my work on Patreon so that I can bring more well-researched videos for you.
Okay, the sun. So the first one was sunbathing. Of course, lay out in the sun, take the nutrients from the sun, you get vitamin D from the sun. Lay on your back, nutrients go through your navel. Lay on your stomach, nutrients get to your back. Sitting out water in the sun. Nutrients from the sun gets into the water. Hypro powers the water. The third one, tad bit controversial, I would just say looking at the sunrise and looking at the sunset. The vitamin D gets into your eyes, penetrates the mind, assists you with the mind. Of course, you don't want to look at the sun at 12 o'clock because that's when it's at its strongest. 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock. That's when the sun is at its strongest. So you don't want to do that. Okay? But that's another way of getting vitamin D through the sun. Now, a good source of vitamin C is fatty fish, vitamin D. A good source of vitamin D, fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, in eggs, in juice, in milk. What is too much vitamin D? Let's see.
One thing I want to talk about is the duration of how long to take vitamin D, as well as the dosage. There's a lot of confusion. Most people are taking between 600 IUs to 1,000 IUs, sometimes 2,000 IUs, and they think that that's enough. One thing you need to realize is that about 75% of the population on planet Earth are deficient in vitamin D. And vitamin D is so important. In fact, it's the most important fat-soluble vitamin, especially for the immune system. Based on some pretty credible studies, which I'm going to list down below, and I only listed 3, I'm going to give you quite a few of them. In the first study, the group took 1,000 to 2,000 IUs of vitamin D once to twice per week for 1 month and did not increase their vitamin D levels at all. Second study
Okay, y'all,
took
I gotta do that
1,000
more.
to 2,000 IUs, and it took 4 months to elevate their vitamin D. And in the third study, it took 3 months to achieve just the normal level of vitamin D by taking 1,600 IUs of vitamin D. And I just had a call from a lady on my live show who was taking 50,000 IUs of vitamin D for weeks, and it did not even increase
I used
her
to
level.
take
So the question is,
50,000.
how can you be that deficient if you're taking so much vitamin D? The first thing to know is that it takes a lot longer than you think to fix a vitamin D deficiency. It could take months. The second thing to know is that there are various things that prevent the absorption of vitamin D. One is your gut. If your gut has damage, you're not going to be able to absorb vitamin D too well. Also, your age greatly influences your ability to absorb vitamin D, not just from dietary sources, but from the sun. The color of your skin also influences your ability to absorb vitamin D. In other words, if the skin is darker, it could take 3 times as much sun to penetrate the skin. And then there's a topic of how much fat you have. The more subcutaneous fat you have in your body, the less you're going to absorb vitamin D. And then there's exposure to the sun. If you're going out in the sun and you're only exposing your hands and your face to the sun, you're only exposing 5% of your body to the sun, which it would take you hours and hours and hours to even achieve a small amount of vitamin D. And then you have the location where you live, the latitude, the connection between where you live and the sun. If you live in the northern hemisphere, which if we look at the United States is just above LA, and we look at the months between November and March, the amount of vitamin D you're going to get is pretty much insignificant. And then we have metabolic issues. Let's say, for example, you have diabetes, you have arthritis, you have high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. Guess what? The requirements for vitamin D go way, way up. And then, of course, we have the season. If it's winter and you're out there trying to get sun, the odds of you getting enough vitamin D are very, very slim. And then lastly, there's a genetic factor involved called polymorphism, where there is a variant or an alteration in your genes which don't allow you to absorb vitamin D very well. And a lot of people have this and they don't even know they have it, and that could be the reason why they can't absorb it. Oh, and there's one more that I forgot to mention. If you have a chronic infection, see, the viruses that invade the body downgrade your vitamin D receptor. So if you have an infection, whether it's in the lung, in the sinuses, or in your gut, the microbes, specifically viruses, have a strategy of blocking the absorption of vitamin D. They block the receptor so you can't absorb it. It's a survival mechanism. And the white blood cells that are fighting the virus need vitamin D desperately, so they're going to suck up that last little bit of vitamin D that you have. So as you can see, there's a lot of factors involved with the absorption of vitamin D. How much vitamin D would I recommend? 10,000 IUs per day as a maintenance. And I mentioned this plus if there's an autoimmune issue involved. And you're going to need much higher amounts of vitamin D with magnesium, B6, and zinc. And there's a couple other things that you can do. If you're concerned that this amount of vitamin D is toxic, which it's not, you'd have to consume 1 to 200,000 IUs of vitamin D for months and months or years to create the complications. And the biggest complication from vitamin D toxicity is hypercalcemia. That's too much calcium in the blood, because that could lead to kidney stones. One way to even minimize the risk for that would be to drink 2.5 liters of water per day. That way, you avoid a super concentration of calcium in the kidney, so there won't be any calcium forming in the kidney. Another way is just to avoid calcium in supplements as well as cheese. That way, there's no calcium to go into the kidney and form as a kidney stone. All right, guys, thanks for watching.
What he said.
Hey, we're back with another amazing recipe.
Okay, so what he was saying with that is that in order for you to have vitamin D toxicity, you would have to take over 200,000 IUs of vitamin D over a period of 7 months to 2 years in order to have calcium in a high level of calcium in your blood. Nobody's going to do that.
No.
So that's what he was saying. What he was saying is that there is no way that you can get vitamin D toxicity. That's what he was basically saying. So vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin that the body uses to regulate cell growth. It fights against inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
It helps the body fight against coronavirus.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin D, if you take vitamin D and calcium together, that's a strong 1-2 punch for healthy bones and osteoporosis, and also improving your immune system. Cheese, butter, milk, fatty fish, which is salmon and mackerel, great sources of vitamin D, but the greatest source is the sun. The sun is the greatest source.
And make sure, like he said, when you're taking all these vitamins, make sure you're drinking enough water.
Yes, you must drink
I
enough
was telling
water.
Milne and I had a conversation, and I was telling her with these vitamins, we got to make sure you're drinking enough water.
Maybe a gallon a day, 64 ounces. That'll be good. Shouldn't be pushing.
I wouldn't eat that. I ain't nobody's tofu.
COVID connection. Researchers around the world trying to determine whether vitamin D deficiency may have something to do with how likely you are to catch COVID-19 and then how severe it could get.
Yeah, hey, there have been a bunch of studies linking vitamin D and COVID, but the key question for researchers, is there a cause and effect relationship here or just a loose connection? Like the Health Insider team taking that debate to the experts.
If you've been in the vitamin aisle lately, you may have noticed something missing, an empty space between the bottles of vitamin C and fish oil. Sales have spiked nearly 42% since the pandemic began, as research in the US and abroad appears to suggest a possible link between vitamin D deficiency and more severe COVID outcomes.
I'll admit, I take vitamin D supplements myself. I don't think you're wrong taking supplements to try to make sure your immune system is healthy. Because the healthier you are in general, the better you're going to react to infections no matter what it is.
Sunshine is a primary source of vitamin D, but diet and supplements can also contribute to overall levels in your body. Low levels of vitamin D are common in people who are obese and smokers. The CDC also listing those as underlying conditions that increase the risk for severe COVID complications.
It's not a surprise that risk factors for one disease due to risk factors for other diseases.
But Dr. Ross Goldberg says the data just isn't there yet to prove or disprove a cause and effect relationship between a vitamin D deficiency and severe COVID complications. He does caution too much vitamin D can also be dangerous.
Like you can't put more gas in your car when you fill the tank. It is what it is. So if you try to put more gas in the car and then you try to drive away, the gas catch on fire and the car could explode. So you really are, it's always having that delicate balance of keeping your body in good, healthy condition and not overdoing it one way or another.
All right, so the bottom line, like so many things connected to this pandemic, the vitamin D question is something that needs more research. In the meantime, if you have a question or a story you want our Health Insider team to look into, just email your ideas, your questions to.
The only thing that I disagree with is that there's no such thing as taking too much vitamin D. There's just no such thing as that.
Well, you won't, don't you? Well,
I mean, there's no, the previous video, you would have to take 200,000 IUs of vitamin D over a period of 7 months to 2 years before it becomes toxicity. No one's going to do that. I don't think anyone's going to take 200,000 IUs a day of vitamin D. Vitamin D, as far as 50,000, that's a pretty big pill, right? It's small.
I used to take them, and there was a tiny green pill. It was a tiny pill.
So what I'm saying
and usually when you get to that amount, you have to have a prescription for them.
So nobody's going to prescribe 200,000
right.
IUs.
Yeah.
This is a chart of how the sun infiltrates our body with vitamin D. So the sun goes, I know it's probably blurry, but the sun goes through the skin, through the epidermis. Once it goes through the skin and through the epidermis, it goes to the liver. Once it goes to the liver, it goes through the small intestine. From the liver, it goes to the pancreas, kidney, again to the small intestine. And then what it does after that, it goes through your bones, it goes through your immune system. If you're pregnant, it goes to the baby, it goes to the pancreas, and then it also goes into the children.
That's why recently we found out that the prenatal vitamins, that's the multivitamins for prenatal, it does not have enough in it, vitamins, the amount to give the mother what she needs.
Right.
So the mother was still experiencing the baby taking calcium from their teeth,
right,
which can lead into tooth decay.
So the best thing with vitamin D, the best thing to do is spend 10 to 15 minutes outside without sunscreen at sunrise or sunset. You get the most out from vitamin D from the sun itself.
A new study has examined that people who have low levels of vitamin D are more likely to have diabetes regardless of how much they weigh. The study found that people who have low levels of vitamin D are more likely to be obese, and they also are more likely to have type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, and metabolic syndrome than people with normal vitamin D levels. Vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium and maintain bone and muscle health. The skin naturally produces vitamin D after exposure to sunlight. According to the study, vitamin D deficiency and obesity interact synergistically to heighten the risk of diabetes and other metabolic disorders. The average person may be able to reduce their risk by maintaining a healthy diet and getting enough outdoor activity.
So that's the myth. Obesity causes diabetes.
Yeah.
Vitamin D deficiency can bring forth diabetes.
Yeah.
Also, we're talking physical. Spiritual, there's a lot of other factors to it. Second Ezra, chapter 2, verse 21 says, heal the broken and the weak. Laugh not a lame man to scorn. Defend the man and let the blind man come into the sight of my clearness. Heal, heal, heal. That's the most important thing that we want to get out of this lesson is about healing. All right, common symptoms in vitamin D deficiency.
Using lab health presence. In this video, we are going to talk about the 10 most common symptoms of vitamin D deficiency. Stay tuned till the end. First one is bone pain. Sometimes you can feel it as a back pain. Vitamin D plays an important role in building and protecting bones, as it facilitates the absorption of calcium and other minerals in the gut. On the other hand, vitamin D directly involves in the maintenance of calcium homeostasis in the body, along with parathyroid hormone. When the circulating vitamin D level drops, parathyroid hormones start to release calcium from the bones to maintain body's calcium levels. Due to this, the defective mineralization of bone leads to the condition called osteomalacia in adults, and it is similar to the condition in children called rickets. Bone pain is occurred as a result of this condition. Sometimes, it may lead to deformities of the legs or fractures in the bones. The most common sites of the diffuse skeletal pain are lower spine, pelvis, legs, and feet. Second is muscle pain. 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D is the active form of vitamin D. This is produced from 25-hydroxyvitamin D in the kidney. A research done by Tague and Smith on vitamin D receptor and enzyme expression in dorsal root ganglia of adult female rats found that the pain-sensing nerves in the muscles also has this ability to make the active form of vitamin D. In case of vitamin D deficiency, that will contribute to the muscle hypersensitivity, leading to pain in muscles. Sometimes it will be difficult for you to identify the muscle pain and bone pain. Bone pain is usually deep, penetrating, or dull. Muscle pain is less intense than bone pain, and it triggers as those muscles start to function. Number 3 is osteoporosis. As we explained earlier, vitamin D has a direct association with the bone health. It's estimated that currently 10 million Americans have osteoporosis, with 1.5 to 2 million osteoporosis-related fractures annually. Vitamin D promotes bone health by maintaining the parathyroid hormone levels in a physiologically healthy level, promoting bone mineralization, as well as reducing risk of fracture. Fatigue and tiredness has many causes. Vitamin D deficiency may be one of them. A large observational study looked at the relationship between vitamin D and fatigue in young women, found that women with blood levels of vitamin D lower than 20 nanogram per milliliter were more likely to complain of fatigue than those with blood levels over 30 nanogram per milliliter, where anything less than 20 nanogram per milliliter is considered as vitamin D deficient. However, this can be an indication of low energy levels of ones who having low levels of vitamin D. The depressed mood may also be a sign of vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D receptors in the 1-alpha hydroxylase enzyme, which convert 25-hydroxyvitamin D to 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D, have been isolated and found in the regions of the cerebral cortex and cerebellum of the brain. The studies found that vitamin D deficiency leads to a mutation in the vitamin D receptors in the brain, leading to depression and other mood disorders. Take a while and see whether you have these mood disorders. If yes, you should check your vitamin D level. and it's better to have some sun bath. Hair loss. This would be the ugliest thing that you could see due to vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D plays a role in stimulating new and old hair follicles. When there is not enough vitamin D in your system, new hair growth can be stunted. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked to alopecia, the autoimmune condition that causes bald patches on the scalp and other areas of the body. Number 7 is impaired wound healing. Slow healing of wounds after surgery or injury may be a sign of low vitamin D levels. Vitamin D is needed to regulate cells in various tissues, including epidermal keratinocytes. Vitamin D can affect wound healing by increasing the production of epidermal and platelet growth factors. It's also been suggested that vitamin D's role in controlling inflammation and fighting infection is important for proper wound healing. It found that those with severe vitamin D deficiency were more likely to have higher levels of inflammatory markers that can jeopardize healing. Getting sick or infected often. One of vitamin D's most important roles is keeping your immune system strong, so you're able to fight off the viruses and bacteria that cause illness. If you become sick often, especially with colds or the flu, low vitamin D levels may be a contributing factor. Several large observational studies have shown a link between a deficiency and respiratory tract infections like colds, bronchitis, and pneumonia. A number of studies have found that taking vitamin D supplements at dosages of up to 4,000 international units daily may reduce the risk of respiratory tract infections. Sleep disorders. The most common sleep disorders in the general population are obstructive sleep apnea and insomnia. Insomnia is the trouble to fall into sleep and trouble to stay in the sleep. Obstructive sleep apnea means the repeated episodes of complete or partial obstructions of the upper airway during sleep. The role of vitamin D as a sleep modulator is the neural expression of 1-alpha hydroxylase and vitamin D receptors in different brain areas, especially in regions that regulate the sleep-wake cycle, such as the hypothalamus. Last one is cardiovascular risk. The vitamin D deficiency significantly increases the risk of peripheral vascular disease, coronary artery disease, myocardial infarction, heart failure, and stroke. As the vitamin D receptors are present in each and every cell of the body, its function in the human systems are still unrevealed. And also, it makes a point that the importance of vitamin D in the human body is enormous. So, don't forget to get enough sunlight and eat healthy foods rich with vitamin D.
All right, make sure that you get your vitamin D. Vitamin D is very, very important, as we have seen. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to end today's lesson right now. What we're going to do is on Friday night, we're going to pick up this lesson with vitamin E, because we have vitamin E, we have folic acid, we got vitamin K, we have iodine, we have iron, magnesium, potassium, selenium, and zinc. So we have about 9 more minerals to go through. And we would probably be teaching till about 9:30 tonight. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop here. This is a good stopping point at vitamin E. We just did vitamin D. Vitamin E. And we're going to pick this up for Friday because it is the Fall Holy Day and the Memorial of Trumpets. So this will be something good to start off the Fall Holy Day and the Memorial of Trumpets. So what I had to say later, I can wait until Friday. So with that, our announcements. The Holy Day will be next week, September 11th. Well, it's actually September 10th through the 11th. We will have a holy convocation. We will speak and have a teaching on the Memorial of Trumpets on the Holy Day. Friday night, we will have our lesson continuing on health with the oils. Day of Atonement, September 21st through the 22nd. There is no work on the Day of Atonement. We will be teaching on the 21st, and we will be teaching on the 22nd. That lesson will start at noon. Also, the memorial of blowing trumpets. That lesson starts at noon. Feast of Tabernacles is on September 25th through October 2nd. That is a double Shabbat. Eighth Day Feast, October 3rd. That is a double Shabbat. No, Feast of Tabernacles, the beginning is not a double Shabbat. The end is a double Shabbat. Okay? That's going to conclude this lesson. We'll have a part 3 because we did part 1. We were interrupted. Came with part 2, and now we'll bring part 3 next week Friday. So what we're going to do is end with Psalms chapter 1.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he do shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. I keep falling in love with him, over and over and over and over again. I keep falling in love with him, over and over and over and over again. It gets sweeter and sweeter as days go by. Oh, the love between my Lord and I keep falling in love with him over and over again. Hey, turn on the speaker. You still gotta say.
If you've enjoyed the lesson, found it educational, like, share, and subscribe.
I can't do it because she's connected to it. Yes, you are. That's not part of me. Oh, no, I can't do it. Because that's her speaker. I,
Just put it to your microphone. Yasharala.
Kwam Yasharala.